Okay, do you want to talk about your proposed legislation that requires platforms to snitch on their users?
This one is really rough once you start trying to break down like how it would work at all. The Senate Judiciary Committee has forwarded a piece of legislation, the Cooper-Davis Act, that would obligate online communication services and social platforms to report users to the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, if the platforms suspect them of being involved in criminal drug activity.
Okay, the problem with this is that, like, the definition of criminal drug activity is, I think we could say, outdated at best.
Oh, yeah. Yep. The bill does not explicitly require providers...
Imbalanced, maybe?
It's also, especially in the States.
Well,
like,
yeah, that's what we're talking about, though.
And stuff.
Oh, it's all over the place.
It's so weird. And like in some places it'll be federal, and I don't understand how this works. I'm not in that area. I don't do those things. But in some places it'll be federally illegal.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's usually the other way around, where it's legal federally but illegal stateside. I think it might be able to be the reverse as well, but I don't know how that works. I don't know. The bill does not require, this is in quotes, the bill does not require providers to seek out illegal activity by users, end quote. But it creates incentives for companies to, for companies to surveil their users, and does require that once providers are aware of this activity, they must report it or else face steep fines, legal liability, and potential criminal prosecution. Again, in quotes, proponents of the bill say that it would help crack down on illicit drug markets that have been proliferating on social media platforms, end quote. But privacy advocates have criticized the bill as potentially furthering, weakening, and in quotes, already inadequate privacy laws, strongly agree with that, and undermining encryption.
Yeah, this is kind of brutal. Like, I'm looking at it going, you know, if someone, Look, I don't personally partake, so my ignorance may be pretty ignorant, but, you know, I could see someone using Facebook Marketplace, for example, hypothetically, to do some kind of transaction, let's say. You know how, okay, for example, you can't buy lawn darts on eBay.
Okay.
So everyone who wants to sell lawn darts on eBay sells the box for lawn darts. And oh, by the way, if lawn darts happen to be inside it, well, whoops, I had no idea. So, like, I could see people, you know, selling pictures of a marijuana leaf on Facebook Marketplace, and, like, that's code for, yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is a thing, maybe it's not a thing. I legitimately actually don't know. But then, you know, where's the line for this? If Meta
I am selling an unknown brick.
Yeah, if Meta knows that people are doing this, all of a sudden, or if they suspect it even, all of a sudden, are they required to...
And especially a platform like Meta, where they're trying to gather any possible information about their users, they might have to, like, change what they're doing in order to not expect these types of things. The harshness of the penalty for failing to report is likely to encourage companies to over-report users for protected free speech, which may result in a chilling effect that prevents users from discussing past addiction, joking, or reaching out for help. The Senate has yet to put the act to a full floor vote. Again, it's not through.
Some people are super mad that I'm not a pothead, and then others are like, "Yeah, I knew it."
Mad that you're not a pothead?
Yeah, I don't know.
How do you be mad?
People just like, you know, having things in common.
My
with people.
creator must do what I do,
well,
or else I'm angry on the internet.
I'm high on life. Okay. Got these ketchup chips.
Dare. Oh, man. That's great. But yeah, I don't know. I hate this thoroughly. As someone who runs platforms, this sounds like the worst.
Yeah, it sounds basically, I mean, even if we ignore the overreach, even if we ignore the complete lack of sensibility in narcotics laws in, I mean, really the world, the inconsistency as well, even if we ignore all those issues, how on earth could they possibly hope to enforce this? How can you prove that they knew that this user was... how How can they prove that the platform suspected a user of being involved in criminal drug activity?
I wouldn't be surprised. Looking at the wording, at least, for the penalties involved, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some amount of bounties for reporting your company for not reporting things. So you could make a bunch of money for throwing the company that employs you under the bus. Just go somewhere else. Because I feel like they've the only sites and services that would really be doing any amount of assessment of users at this level would be really big sites and services that have lots of money and have lots of employees and are probably at a point where they're like, the people coming to work here, they don't necessarily care too much about the company at that scale, so maybe they'll take the payday. I don't know. It just seems kind of whack to me personally.
Yeah, Bixby in Floatplane Chat says suspicious activity reports are a thing for banking institutions, for example, to report suspected money laundering.
I feel like that's different.
Well, no, like in terms of how they could incentivize the employees, like what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah.
Yep, I could see that. Yeah. And I mean, drugs are one of those things where you will definitely get people with very polarized opinions about it. You know, you'll have people with the giant marijuana leaf on their t-shirt, literally walking down the street holding a bong. And then on the other side of it, you've got the, think of the children prudes who are like, there should be no drugs in the world. They should take all the naturally occurring plants that have,
Tylenol bad. Isn't that the one? It's bark or something? I don't remember.
Not to that degree, but anything with a psychoactive effect should basically be put in a big fire. Oh, but not close to people in Australia, and we should get rid of all of it, right? Like, so you've got both sides of this. So I think you're going to have people that are just essentially ready to go to war over this immediately after something like this were to pass. I mean, I was about to say I really don't see how this could possibly pass, but I don't know, wilder things have happened. You look at the gong show that was like natural gas stoves or like ranges a little while ago. Like just how quickly people can form ranks,
aspirin,
and just go after each other. Also, given the number of recreational drugs these days that are pharmaceutical products, how on earth do you prove that I didn't need that Adderall? I mean, I didn't get it from a pharmacy in this case, so that's one thing.
Well, maybe
they were closed.
That's if they're using it as a marketplace. But lots of these places, they're also including just talking about it.
Right.
And I don't know, but I just looking at the things that I hear, like you hear about a lot of fatalities from fentanyl, for example. That's a big one in Vancouver.
Yeah.
We hear news about that all the time. But fentanyl is a drug they give in hospitals.
Yep.
So what if someone is prescribed fentanyl?
Well, you wouldn't be prescribed it.
Is it only ever administered at hospitals?
Yeah, because the amount of it to be
that's
fatal
lethal is like so tiny.
It's very tiny. Yeah.
What if you talked about how it had been, how you've had it before?
Yeah.
But you were just meant in a hospital.
And
now
it's
you're reported to the police?
Even if that person doesn't ultimately end up in jail, look at the amount of administrative nonsense that you're creating. What a waste of time when police departments, quite frankly, have enough on their hands.
Someone in Floatplane Chat says you can be prescribed fentanyl for at-home use. My dad had it.
No way.
That sounds terrifying.
Lost Insanity says, hey, so the state of Louisiana finally sent out an email today to those who were affected by the Department of Motor Vehicles hack that occurred. They're providing a year of life lock to anyone that was affected by it, but they finally notified people of it at least. This is something that I've found quite confusing for a long time. So you know how difficult it is to change a social insurance number, or for our American friends, a social security number? Once you have it assigned to you, you know how impossible it is to change your birth date, for example, like these key pieces of information that can aid people in committing identity theft or fraud. The fact that the only mitigation that is offered are these monitoring services Like I get LifeLock is one that I haven't heard of before, but
I've heard of it before. I find it weird that they grant you a temporary amount of time with a private service.
yeah, well,
That's really weird to me.
That's exactly kind of where I was going with that. So whether it's like TransUnion or LifeLock or any one of those kinds of organizations, why is this a thing?
Yeah.
This feels like one of those things where you look at it and you go, that's got to be lobbying.
Oh, yeah.
Because the obvious answer is a permanent solution.
Yes.
And the not obvious answer is one that you pay a subscription to some rando third-party company that has had their own breaches in the past. I don't know if LifeLock has, but TransUnion certainly has. Forever. And I'm sorry, you're giving me 1 year? So what? If I'm a criminal mastermind, I basically just go, I'm await 365 days. This information will all still be valid. Come on, are you serious right now? This
January
is ridiculous.
15th, 2023, thousands of Norton LifeLock customers had their accounts compromised in recent weeks, potentially allowing criminal hackers to access customer password managers, the company revealed in a recent data breach notice. Cool.
No, that's a nice hat. I disagree. This is from Floatplane Chat. They do know better. I think they do know better. I think it's just the oldest reason in the world. It's money.
Money.
Man, if you want to go down a good rabbit hole, the fact that TurboTax exists at all.
God,
no,
yeah.
Okay, you've already done this one then.
Oh, yeah. That enrages me. That should so not even close to be okay. That's so frustrating. Like, I understand government services and some private services even. You shouldn't just be able to, like, crush companies from existing all the time and stuff like that. But that same setup should not be allowed to exist to forcibly keep completely useless motions in like completely useless things in motion. It's so incredibly frustrating. People are mad about the US tax system. Yeah, it's not as bad in Canada, but it's still completely messed up.
It's still bad. It's still ridiculous.
American tax is just a complete utter joke.
There's
like potentially worse than...
There's so much stuff that's so dumb. One of the things that I was just outraged to find out as an adult is that when you buy a secondhand vehicle, you have to pay sales tax on it. And I'm sitting here going, no, you already taxed this.
Yeah.
That's double dipping. Like, if you want
to go down the double dipping rabbit hole, there's a lot of that. There's an absurd amount of that.
Like, if I deduct something this year, do I get to deduct it again next year because I gifted it to my wife? Like, what are you talking about?
You guys just traded back and forth. Oh, I'm sure people do that. It's such a joke, man. Oh, I don't know. It's very, very, very frustrating. The whole, like, we know exactly how much you owe, but you need to tell us. And if you're wrong, you're screwed. It's
yeah.
Like, what? Why?
Yeah.
Like,
do you know how it works for corporate tax here?
Not as much.
Okay. So, you know how with personal taxes, you have them deducted by your employer on your paycheck automatically, right? Or you cannot, right? Like you can go that option if you want. I don't think that's something that we offer just because...
Offering both sounds like a paperwork nightmare.
No offense to everyone, but people do not manage their finances very well. So if people got their whole paycheck every time, then when April rolled around, they would not have.
Honestly, that is very wise, and I support this.
So like 25 to 30+% of their annual income that they would owe in taxes at that time. So anyway, the way personal taxes work, they're due in April in tax season, and you pay them at that time. And the way corporate taxes work is based on your last year, you will pay installments every month based on the last year. And if it turns out you were wrong and you actually owe more, then you owe interest for not like estimating it correctly. So instead of it just like having a due date at the end of the year, you need to be paying it continuously or you basically get boned. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I hate it. I hate it so much. I'm pretty sure they don't pay you interest if you overpay on it either, but don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on
Be
that.
surprised, yeah.
I'd be very surprised.
I had no idea, but someone said we don't do taxes in the UK. It's done by the government. That is how that should work.
Whiskey Tank
They're already
says
doing it anyways.
employees should be able to decide what happens with their money. No, you're actually just wrong.
Yep.
Because they don't get to anyway. They owe it in taxes.
Yeah.
It's just that we don't want people to suddenly go bankrupt.
Yeah.
That's really bad.
It's like actually extremely chaotic.
Yeah, not having those taxes on hand, not having those tax payments on hand in April would be potentially devastating to the lives of someone who didn't manage their money correctly. And
Which is very common.
Yeah, most people are not able to just look at like $10,000 in their bank account and go, okay, no, I should actually hold on to that. And like Luke said, the additional paperwork of handling it both ways would be extremely complicated.
That alone is like, that makes it kind of not worth it, in my opinion.